So it's been a little while since I did a video. I've been making community posts, but I just haven't done any videos for, I don't know, a couple of weeks or even longer. I did say I was going to put out a video about fundraising, but I got pretty busy this weekend and I just haven't got a chance to do that. Hopefully I will get that video done and put it out tomorrow. We'll just see. If not tomorrow, then Tuesday maybe? It'll either be tomorrow or Tuesday and I'll get that video up. But this video is going to be about what just kind of happened. A couple of things. I'm going to just kind of lump it in together, and I'm going to try to make this a lot quicker than normal. It's hard when I do some videos. Again, when you're talking to yourself, sometimes I just ramble on. But anyways, a few things that I'm going to talk about and address. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is, and I'm going to kind of just be brief about it, okay? And that's the recorded phone call. All right. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. A lot of people have already covered it. I did make a community post about it. And I know a lot of people have also, and a few have done videos. Now, some people are saying, they're kind of upset that, on both sides, I guess. They're upset that it's being shared, the phone call, that it's being shared as content. And some people are upset that it was recorded to begin with. Now, I have no idea what is going on behind the scenes. Now, we do know that the person that recorded this phone call with Mrs. P is friends with the, other party in this legal thing, Noodle Mash. So like I said, I have no clue if she was also friends with Mrs. P too. Have no idea. But the thing is, why would she record a phone call? Now, if I just listened to a little tiny portion of Noodle Mash's video live that she did today, and she did say that they were friends, I guess, or I don't know who reached out to who with this phone call, if it was Mrs. P that called Patty, or if Patty called Mrs. P. But the thing is, if Patty was friends with Mrs. P, we already know she's friends with Noodle, right? Why would she record the conversation of her friend? I mean, do you record, when you're talking to your friend, do you record that conversation with your friend? No, you don't, right? You don't record a conversation that you have with someone you're friends with. That makes no sense. So the question is, why would she do that? Unless there was a reason behind it. Like maybe trying to see if Mrs. P was going to say something to incriminate herself, to maybe see if she was going to do something to, like I said, get herself in trouble with this PPO that is on her, so that it can be used on the other side. I can't think of any other reason, right? Now, I'm not saying that Noodle Mash told her to record a conversation or Noodle Mash was behind any of this. I'm not saying that. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. What I'm saying is, for whatever reason, I don't care what the reason is, that it got uploaded on Patty's channel by mistake, whatever, that's her bad. Nobody else's. She's the one that recorded the call. She's the one that uploaded it on her channel. Maybe, she thought it was private. Why would you even upload it on your channel? I mean, I was trying to figure out, and a lot of people are as well, why would you record it in the first place if you're reaching out and you're supposed to be friends with this person? But why would you upload it on your channel to even, to be private? That makes no sense. And it accidentally, got uploaded to public, and then now people grabbed it. But it still makes no sense, okay? So, just in my opinion only, after listening to it, it was like, okay, is Mrs. P going to say something to incriminate herself? Because with this PPO, I have been hearing a lot, just here and there, that, well, Mrs. P broke the PPO here. She's saying stuff here. She's going to get in trouble here. She's, going to go to jail here and there. Just because she has a PPO against her does not mean she can't talk. She can even talk about her feelings on this case, on how she feels about it. She can say that she feels like she was done wrong. She can, she can express herself. But people are making it sound like she can't do squat or say anything or whatever. Now, she does have to be careful. Absolutely. And I do want to back up a little bit. I'm not saying that Mrs. P did not do wrong. She absolutely did do some things wrong. We all know that. She did a lot of lying in this community. She has done a lot of things to a lot of people. That is true. Mrs. P is also disabled. And when I say disabled, she has a lot of disabilities that no other creator on here has. Okay, that's a fact. There's people that do have disabilities, mental, challenges, physical challenges, but not to the extent that Mrs. P has. That's a fact in this drama circle, okay? And maybe Mrs. P does believe a lot of the things that she says. I don't know, but she has done a lot of wrong. I've called a lot of that out in the past. I called out the things that she did to Noodle Mash. And yes, she did dox Noodle Mash's where she lived, her address, all that stuff. Put the pictures up. Even, the threat that she made. That's why, the PPO went into place and stuff. But going past that PPO, just because someone has a PPO on them does not mean that they can't, they're in silence now. They can't say anything. They just have to be careful. They cannot contact that person, right? They can't. They cannot have somebody else contact them. They can't threaten them. She can't be doing these, the lies and saying this and that. She's got to be very careful. But it does not mean that she can't have a voice. And she can't say, hey, I feel like I was not treated right. Just because the court says that Noodle Mash won, I'm sorry. Sometimes courts get things wrong, right? Sometimes people are not convicted of things that they should have been convicted of, and they get away with things. And sometimes they are convicted of, we have people that are innocent in prison, right? The courts don't always get everything right. I'm not saying this is the case here. I'm just saying the court system isn't perfect either, right? Like I said, I'm not saying this is the case here, but when we hear somebody yelling and on the rooftops that, I had to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, my case, we do have someone that had an attorney with someone that did not have an attorney and has severe mental challenges. That didn't help her case at all, but I don't know if it would have helped her case because of her putting addresses out and a threat. But again, this is all on YouTube. So if she did have an attorney, it might have changed things. I don't know. But I've said before too that, Mrs. Portland was not cut out for this drama circle. She wasn't. That was just my opinion. The clapback and everything, and something needed to be done, But the thing is she is still able to voice her opinion on what happened to her. And all these people that are going around saying, oh, she's broke it, she's done this, she's done that, and she's going to go to jail for this and go to jail for that because she's... No, guys. If other people are harassing Noodle Mash, okay, you cannot put the blame on Mrs. Portland for that. Now, I think maybe Mrs. Portland might be talking a little bit here and there, but a lot of people have already made their opinion up on Noodle Mash, and you can't put the blame and go back to court and say, it's Mrs. Portland, she is the one that, it's her fault that these people don't like me. It's her fault that, she's inciting the hate and the harassment, and, I want her reported. I want her to go to jail because she's breaking the PPO. Now, I guess it would be up to a judge. I'm not a judge, but I don't think a judge is going to put a mentally disabled and a physically disabled person in jail because a lot of other people do not like Noodle Mash for other reasons, for whatever reason, and they're going to blame it all on Mrs. Portland. Now, if Mrs. Portland continues, if she is doing lying, I don't know. If she is lying and if she is directly talking to Noodle Mash, and that did happen because she was in Lycans, this is something they allowed. Okay? And I already foreseen this to be a problem, but they allowed it in Lycan's chat for whatever reason. They made peace with Noodle or with Mrs. Portland and allowed her back in the community, and they were both in the community at the same time. Now, they said they had each other blocked, but they both knew that each other were in there because you had subs talking to both of them at the same time. And I knew that Mrs. Portland would probably at some point address Noodle Mash, and she did by name, Noodle Mash. That right there was breaking the PPO. And I knew that it was going to happen. And then Noodle Mash put a bunch of hearts when Mrs. Portland addressed her and apologized. That broke the PPO, okay? Now, Mrs. Portland isn't in the community anymore. I guess she's upset with them again. And so now no one likes her anymore in that community. And now they're, she's breaking the order and she's doing this and she's doing that. I already seen this coming. And a lot of people did too. Now, again, I don't know where Mrs. Portland is going or, you know, what she is saying here and there, as long as she is not telling, you know, putting out information. I don't know about lies. I'm sorry, guys, but, you know, Noodle Mash is saying that they're lies, but we don't know for sure what happened. Now, we can't say what happened when they lived in the same place. We have her word against, you know, Mrs. Portland's word against Noodle Mash's word, right? We don't have the whole, we don't know. We weren't there. I can say what I believe, and I did. I still say that there's no way, in my opinion, like I said before, that Noodle Mash did not say when she, you know, called her a puke when she first came in. Now, later on, could, I mean, out of Noodle Mash's own words, she did stop talking to her and did kind of slight her, and, you know, but then she said they were on good terms, or, you know, not friends, but, you know, kind of on good terms when Mrs. P moved out. But there was a time when she was living there that they weren't friendly, and they weren't talking there for a while. So we have no idea, because we weren't there on the time that they were living in the apartment complex, how that all went down. So if Mrs. P is saying that, you know, in her mind that Noodle Mash was mean to her, maybe in her mind she was, because Noodle Mash wouldn't talk to her or whatever. I don't know. None of us were there to say what went on, right? We weren't. So if Mrs. P feels that Noodle Mash was a bully while they lived there, or mean to her, who are we to say what is the truth there? We're not. Okay? So if that's how she feels, that's how she feels. How is that breaking a PPO? How is that? Okay? If she talks about that. Now, if she goes on to, you know, put out any more addresses, or, you know, doing any of that other stuff, that would be breaking it. Or if she tells somebody to contact Noodle Mash, or she tries to contact Noodle Mash, or if she tries to contact the family members or anything like that, that's breaking a PPO. But all this nonsense that, you know, she's breaking a PPO when she's not, that's insane. Okay? That's insane. Because I've said before, I have had a stalking order on somebody, my ex, who's not living anymore. And I know what it said in there. And I'm sure other people's had it. And you can't use that PPO and silence somebody that they're not allowed to say a damn word, but you can go around saying whatever you want to say on that person all the time, right? You can tell your truth on your platform and in everybody's comments on their platform all over these YouTube streets, but the other party is not allowed to say a word. They're to shut up and not say a word. Now, they have to be careful. Like I said, they absolutely have to be careful. But I think something was said that in the paperwork or whatever, I think Mrs. P might have said that in the paperwork, it said that Noodle Mash, or that it stated in there that she threatened Noodle Mash's family, and Noodle Mash is saying that's not true. Mrs. P might be thinking that that's what it says. We do have to understand, and Noodle Mash is saying that's a lie. And I think Noodle Mash says she was going to go legal on that as well. Again, we have to understand we are dealing with somebody that she might not understand all this legal mumbo jumbo. I know Mrs. P is intelligent. She is. I've said that before. But she might not understand all this legal mumbo jumbo. Again, she does not have an attorney that can explain anything to her. She doesn't. So, and she has a lot of people that have been in her ear on all sides of all corners of the YouTube streets, right? So, just saying, it's kind of ridiculous to make someone feel like they just can't. I know for a little while she wasn't around at all. For a little bit she, just kind of disappeared, and you didn't hear anything from her or about her or whatever. And we do know that, she kind of gets out of control. We all know this. I am not sticking up for her bad behavior at all. At all. We know she has some very horrible behavior. And a lot of people have said, and it is true, just kind of not talk about her, not, do videos on her and stuff like that. And a lot of people have blocked her because they are trying to think about her own well-being, okay? Because that is the best thing to do. And I could go on because, the more that I've heard Noodle Mash talk about this, the more I'm like, okay. Like, she said that she was friends with Mrs. P when she first came to this community. That's not how I remembered it, okay? That first video that Noodle Mash did, she did not have contact with Mrs. P. So how could you have been friends if you haven't talked to this woman in years? And when you said that you left the apartments, you were on okay terms, really not talking terms. You said kind of bye to each other, but you weren't friends. But when you came to this community, you were on okay terms. That's not how I remember that first video. You were talking at her. Somebody went and got you because she was having issues with another creator and she was out of control. And no, you weren't mean to her in that videos, in the videos, because I watched all those. I watched all those videos. I even chatted. I was a sub, and they weren't mean videos, but you were like, you can't do this kind of behavior. You can't, you can't do this and you can't do that. I don't think there was any, I don't think there was any type of friendship of Mrs. P and Noodle Mash when she came to this community. It's just so bizarre. But, anyways, I got off track there. The phone call. Some can say that Mrs. P, like I said, might have been being set up or baited in case it need to be used later. And maybe not against Mrs. P, but to these other people that have been going at Noodle Mash, with the memes and the community post. And yeah, my laundry's done. And videos, and maybe using it that, if they would get something of, said about Mrs. P, or that Mrs. P would say that she shouldn't say on these recorded calls. We don't even know how many calls were recorded, right? We just got this one that we heard. How many were recorded? But instead of, putting Mrs. P and turning something in, if Mrs. P would have said something in one of these calls, could it be used against some of these other people that, there are some people I do believe actually really care about Mrs. P, and they do not want to see her in trouble. They do not want to see her hurt. And it could be used against these other people that, hey, if you don't stop, we got something, we got something on Mrs. P, And she is going to get in trouble if you don't stop. I don't know. I'm just saying, kind of what I am feeling, okay? Again, just my opinion. Because, again, why would you tape a phone call on your friend? Makes no sense, right? It makes no sense. So we're going to kind of stop about that call. I know Noodle Mash said she did not want to address the call yet because she hasn't really got information about it or the context about it or whatever. I'm sorry. That's true. So she didn't want to address it, and maybe she needs to find out more info before she does. But it's wrong. Okay. No matter what, it's wrong. You shouldn't be. You should not be recording your friend, for one. You shouldn't then be uploading a phone call from your friend to your YouTube channel, even if you were going to make it private, because there's a bad intent there for some whatever reason. And especially if you are a good friend of the other party where there was a court thing that had to do with the stalking order. That's really fishy, right? Really fishy. So anyways, then I seen that Lycan, he did a community, I think maybe a couple of community posts, at least one. And he had to turn it around and make it about him, right? About, well, you guys are outraged about, a phone recording, but, what about me? What about what happened to me? About a certain person that recorded a call on me. It's not about a phone, someone recording a phone call. That's not what people, I don't think people are outraged about, recording a call. That's not the point. And these are two different things. And I did make a community post about that. They're two different things, okay? And like I said, I don't think it's recording a phone call that people are upset about. It's what I mentioned. Number one, it's a disabled woman, right? And supposedly they're friends, and they uploaded it to YouTube. I mean, it's not like two people that are angry at each other or what. They're friends, and they're just doing a friendly talk. And there was a court thing going on, and this person is good friends with the other party. Totally different. The call that was recorded with Lycan was to get a lie, to get him to admit to a lie. And I'm sorry, I did a video way back when that happened, and I said, you ladies, all you ladies, even Lycan supporters, if a man would have put out a big lie about you, and if you had a chance to, the only way that you could stop the lie, right? And I even did the video where I put a real life scenario that you had an ex that told a big lie in your town, that you sent them pictures, or I think that's what the scenario was, kind of the same thing, but I used it as, it happened in your town, and they were telling your friends, your enemies, your family, and everything about this, and that it was true. And people were going around telling everybody else that it was the truth. And you had no way to prove that it was a lie, that they were lying about it. And people were believing it. People were believing it. Even some family members, maybe, some of your, all of your enemies, even some people that kind of liked you, they just, maybe even some people that were actually your friends, they were believing it, and all they did was talk about it and talk about it, and they were saying disgusting things, right? You would go, maybe go to a restaurant or you go to the club, and that's all they talked about, just you were being embarrassed. I think I'm ad-libbing here. I don't think I was saying all of that, but I did a video way back on this. But then that ex or whatever called you up out of the blue, and they were being nice to you. And you thought to yourself, I got a chance here of maybe trying to figure out why they lied or try to get them to admit to it. And then I can show my proof if I can get them to admit to it. So you record that phone call and you get them to admit that, yeah, you didn't send me those pictures. I lied. Yeah, I was just shit talking. It was just shit talk. And that's exactly what Granny did. And that's exactly what Lycan admitted to. It was just shit talk. After he put it out as a fact that she sent him these pictures, right? He described it in detail. Horrible, disgusting way. Like I said in my video, he discussed, he talked about her hoo-ha and that she needed to see her gynecologist, ASAP, the way he talked about it. And creators were making content about her hoo-ha. And they still are. They're still going with that it's, so disgusting. And this has been how many months ago? And he kept with that story. That she sent that and sent those pics and this is what it looked like. And so she recorded him admitting that it was just shit talk. And then she played it on her channel, right? She played it. And I said that, when I made that scenario, that real life scenario, that any one of you ladies, even you supporters out there, if this happened in real life, you all would have done the same damn thing to clear your name, to prove that you never did this. You never showed him any pictures, sent him any pictures, and, he doesn't know what your hoo-ha looks like. You guys would have done the same thing. The same thing. Because his supporters were like, oh my God. She recorded, oh my God, it needs to go to the police. And yes, he said that he did take it to the police because in her state, you can't record another person without them knowing, right? But I'll say something about that in a minute. I would have done it, and I have done it. Like I said, I'll say something about that in a minute. But you ladies out there know, and some of you guys too, you would have done the same damn thing to prove your innocence if you had a chance to. That was the only way that she had, because people were going with it and making content over, night after night after night, talking about her hoo-ha. And like I said, some of them still are. Making memes, doing lives, community posts, disgusting stuff. So he lied. And then, oh, well, it was just a joke, only when he was busted. Okay. So he was making the phone, about that phone call because, see, that's what happens. You can't call out, people just cannot call out their own community. They can't. When somebody does something wrong in their community and other people call it out or whatever, they can't do it. Your loyalty is so damn strong, you just cannot do it. You can't say, you know what? They screwed up. They effed up. It's wrong and I'm calling it out. Can't do it. Now, I've seen some people do it. I have seen some. There's some creators that have called out some of their own people and said, it was wrong. Shouldn't have done it. And some people have lost friendships. But some of y'all cannot do it. You absolutely can't. Because you have, some of you that have channels, you can't afford to lose your support with some of the other creators and their subs that you'll lose. Fact. Okay? And some of you have that need to belong. You have nowhere else to sit. And you want to be in this drama circle, but you have nowhere to go. So you're going to go with the flow, no matter what's said, no matter what's done. But if it's done on the other side of the tracks, oh my God, you're going to be outraged. We're going to talk about that in a minute too. But didn't Lycan, after this, didn't he record phone calls of other people too? Yeah, okay. Makes a lot of sense. This phone call that just happened, that we just heard, had nothing to do with him. And like I said, two totally different scenarios. Two totally. One was about a lie, trying to get the truth out. And the other one was about a friend, supposed to be a friend, recording another friend talking about a situation in her life. She needed someone to talk to. And they recorded it for what purpose? And then, uploaded it to their YouTube channel. I guess screwed up and made it public when it should have been private. I mean, what was the purpose anyways? Two totally different things. Again, it's not about being recorded, okay? As much as what was the reason behind it. That's the question. Now, I said that I would come back to this. I recorded my ex. Now, I lived in a state that you don't have to have permission to do it. But you know what? I wouldn't have gave a shit. I wouldn't have gave a shit. I would have took my chances on going to jail because I had someone that, I had 3 kids, and I had someone that did a lot of threats. A lot of threats. And when I mean threats, I mean threatening my life, threatening my children's lives. I mean real effing threats, okay? And lies. Big time lies. All right? So I needed to make sure that every time he called me, I made sure that it was recorded. And I wouldn't have cared, like I said, if I'd lived in a state that I would have, I would have never told him, well, I'm recording you, because then he would have been on his best behavior, right? But if I lived in a state where I couldn't, where it was against the law, I wouldn't have gave a shit. I would have still recorded it. Because I needed that proof, because he lied so much. Because, see, nothing was ever his fault. Never. And he did no wrong. Okay? And he would lie a lot. A lot. And say, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I never said that. But see, I had the proof. I had the proof. And I remember, because I had to ask or whatever. I did ask an officer if it was, because I didn't know. If it was legal for me to do or not do or whatever. And, they told me, it was no big deal. And he's like, even if it isn't, he goes, you need to make sure you get all the recordings. He's like, it is no big deal. Now, I know if you look it up, what do they say? I think on some states it's like a felony or something. They are not going to do jack. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it might be illegal to do in some states, but what are they going to do, right? What are they going to do? They have bigger things to worry about. Now, I guess you can get an attorney. Yeah, we have a lot of people that just want to, they're sue happy. In these YouTube streets. Sue happy. Giddy up. Okay? Now, sometimes you do have to take things legal. You do. There's things that do warrant going legal. I don't want to say that some people you know. But other things, yeah, you're so happy. Or you put yourself out there to make it sound like, everybody's so happy. But seriously, they have so much more to worry about than I think someone taping a phone call, right? To protect themselves or um, to prove that the harassment that they're getting is based on lies, even though, they live in a state that you're not supposed to do that. I don't think that would have went well over in court. I don't know. I think it would have been laughed at, thrown out. Um, Not big deal. Big deal. So, anyways, that's on the phone call. For one, it that's the only way that I'm okay with all these, taping of phone calls, is if you got to protect yourself, or prove someone wrong or whatever. But if you're taping to use against somebody at a later date, then you're a piece of crap. Okay, let's be real. You're a piece of crap if you're taping someone that is a friend just for no reason. You're only doing that, you're only holding on to that to use against them in case you have a falling out, or to use to benefit for whatever reason. Okay, I can't even believe adults do this. I really can't. Well, I should in this drama circle. So that's all I'm going to say on that recording, right? Now, again, a lot of you people, you're okay if like I said, I did say that was all I was going to say, but you do remember that Lycan he did record other people afterwards, right? It's the double standards is just really, and we're going to talk about some more double standards here. It just amazes me. It amazes me. Okay, so now we're gonna move on from that. That's my feelings on that. Okay, so we're gonna talk about what DeLorean is doing here. Okay, with what Granny said about the short bus. All right, and I have to say, yeah, I'm gonna say it, Granny. Um, Not a nice thing to say about the short bus. Now, is that the worst thing you can say? No, it's not. I don't know what she was referring to. I have no clue. Um, we know that people listen to me, that ride the short buses are normally people, and you're going to listen to my dog every time he takes a drink. He hacks. It's okay. He's all right. That ride short buses normally are special needs, disabled, right? They might be autistic. Now, was Granny making fun of anybody's child? Was she making fun of children? Because that's what the short buses are. I mean, some adults too. Um, they have different buses. Normally, adults don't ride a school bus, because adults, that are in special programs, a lot of them are like in work programs. They normally have different vans that they go in, not school buses. So these are children. Was she making fun of anybody's children? No. Okay, that's what short buses are normally for. So DeLorean, because yeah, the DeLorean's been making a lot of memes about, Granny's cat and, the cat litter box, and which is, ridiculous. These memes, I'm not into these memes on anybody. I'm really not. Um, it's just not my thing, okay? It's not. On anybody. I'm just not. I mean, I like memes, don't get me wrong. Some memes are just hilarious that you see. But when people use other people's faces, um, I don't know. I don't find them funny. I don't. No matter who you are. I don't find them funny. Okay. Do I find memes themselves, a lot of them funny? Hell yeah, I do. But not when someone is using someone else's face. I don't know. That's just not my thing. Okay. Gonna be honest. But she's been doing this to Granny for a while. Ever since she got the cat box. I mean, she's been doing it, and she's been doing it to Angela too. But she's been doing it for a while. And especially with Granny, since the cat box, like I said. And to the cat. Okay. And what happened to our cat with the lights and stuff, which is absolutely ridiculous, all right? Anybody that has cats know that I don't even have to go there. Don't even, you guys know, if you have cats, they're curious, they get into, especially kittens. Oh my gosh. I mean, I have two cats. I've always had cats, all right? And always had dogs. And I have two now that I've had for 16 years. They're sisters. And let me tell you, some of the stuff that they have gotten into and that I've had to rescue them from, and trust me, I am a good pet mom. My animals have a vet they go to. They have good lives. So anyways, I'm not even going to get into all that because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But what I wanted to talk about was back to this phrase that she used. The DeLorean, not only, she did this video to pull at those heartstrings. And in my opinion, when you use your child or use children to get back at a creator, right? And this is how I feel. You're using your child and saying, and a lot of people, I seen it, well, I have a child that's autistic, and this really offends me, that she would say this about the bus, and it was what? Words hurt. Words hurt. Maybe everybody in this drama circle should think about that, right? Words hurt. But see, words only hurt when other people say things or do things. But when you do it or people that you support do it, it's fine, right? Again, because you won't call out the bullshit that your friends do. Because you'll lose that support. You'd have nowhere to sit. You might, if you're monetized or you're making money, you'd lose those subs. If you have a falling out, can't afford that, right? Because, like I said, we know what a short bus is, okay? And like I said, I don't know what the reason behind that was or whatever, but it wasn't nice. But she sits, the DeLorean, sits with people that says the R word, right? All the time. All the time. And says, I'm going to stop saying the N word because I made a business decision. And this community does not like that word. okay? And I'm going to change my ways, yada, yada. We appreciate that. But I'm not going to stop saying the R word. And they haven't. You know. You know what I'm talking about, the R word. R and then tard. I'm not going to say it. Now, I have to say, and I'm going to be honest, back when I was younger, we used to say, you know, that's R. Okay? I'm not going to say the word. That's R. You guys know what I'm saying, right? We weren't calling anybody that, but we would say that is R. Back when I was younger, you know, a teenager and stuff, we weren't calling anybody that, but we would say that is that. Because that's just how people talked. I mean, that was years ago. And a lot of people still say that. That is that. Right? And they're not saying it as trying to be mean to mentally handicapped people. But over there in that community, that word is dropped all the time, right? So what is worse? Calling someone an R word, or all the time, constantly using the R word, right? Or one time saying something about a short bus. But we're going to do a video, and we're going to do community post, and we're going to talk about morals, and we're going to talk about, you know, having no compassion, because Lindsay is the one that put it out, the DeLorean, that she has a child that is on the spectrum, I think she said. No, I'm not talking about people's children. I got to keep putting that out there because it gets twisted. Oh my gosh, she's talking about my child. No, she's the one that put it out there. And like I said, I think it's pretty sick that people want to use their children to make a point to go after someone else. Well, why are you not calling out the people that you sit with that use the R word? If words hurt, right, and you're using children, and like I said, people in chat are like, yes, I have a family member, or I have a child that's on the spectrum, and this was disgusting, then that R word should be disgusting too, right? Right? It should be. But it's not, because, you know, the person that uses it says they're only words. Why are you triggered, Karens? It's only words. Why you have no sense of humor? Why are you guys always butthurt? And I've seen some of the same people that were saying, you know, that short bus comment, that it was hurtful and words hurt and it shouldn't have been, you know, said, yada yada, are the same ones saying, I've seen them say the same thing, that people are too sensitive to words. They have no sense of humor. They don't know how to take a joke, right? Now, I've said before too, my youngest son, he also has autism. He's high functioning, but he has autism. And my nephew, I've said this before, and some might want to take offense to this. I'm sorry if you do. He's in his 30s. He has autism. And when I say you might want to take offense to this is the only way I know how to explain it. His autism is like Rain Man. That's how bad it is, okay? He will never, ever function on his own. And that's the way I explain it, because that's how severe it is. I've talked about my niece who had brain cancer. She is very seriously disabled. And yes, she does ride one of the short buses to school. Okay? But what I'm trying to get across here is the double standards. The double standards of calling someone out you don't like for saying one time, I mean, sometimes things slip. Sometimes you will say something here and there that comes out, you shouldn't say, or I don't know. Not my cup of tea. I don't say that's art anymore, that because things change over time, over the years, where it's like, okay, that's not really acceptable anymore. Like I said, I'm just being honest. And I know a lot of people still say it, that's really, now it's like, okay, that's really effed up. F-bomb it instead of that's really R, right? Because people get offended. They get more offended because of children or even adults that are disabled. They don't like that R word. But like I said, we're going to be okay, and we are okay. We're absolutely fine. We're not going to call anybody out we sit with that we're part of their community. They say the R word all the time. That, we don't think that's offensive to our child. No, we don't think, no, that's fine. But because we don't like somebody, they make a comment. They don't say the R word. No. They don't say that, but they say something about a short bus, and that's going to break our hearts, and that's going to warrant a video and say words hurt, and we're going to be outraged. You guys are absolutely ridiculous, okay? And in my opinion, a lot of people are using their children and their loved ones to try to pull on heartstrings to prove a point. You're using your kids. That's my opinion. Because if you're going to be outraged about words hurt, like I said, you're going to be outraged about the R word being used too. And you would not accept it. That's worse. I'm sorry. It is. It's worse. And you would not be okay with it. Not if you have a child that has disability. If they have something, if they're autistic, or if they had a brain injury, or anything like that, or if they have any type of handicap, it wouldn't be acceptable, right? Or not even a child. Any loved one, adult, brother, sister, it doesn't matter what age. It wouldn't be acceptable. But it's only not acceptable if it's someone you don't like. If it's someone you sit with, someone in your community, then it's absolutely okay. And that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, and you know it. And again, the double standards. Now, remember, I already said, I didn't like the small bus or whatever it was called. But I think the R word is a lot worse. Sorry. Now, I wouldn't even be talking about this at all if videos and if, you know, community posts wouldn't be made, and if I did not feel like people were using their own children to try to prove a point. And if you're going to prove a point, then go for it. But if you're going to prove a point, then you best be calling out the other people that are doing it all around, right? Even the people you sit with, your buddies, that are saying worse. Because you're not doing your child or your loved one or anybody else that has these disabilities any favors if you're only going to call out one thing. And if you're not going to call it out all the way around. And everybody that's doing it, even if they're your buddies. It doesn't work that way. It absolutely doesn't. If you can't stand up and take a stand for the cause and stand up against it, right? All the way around, then sit down, because you don't stand up for nothing. So with that, I'm going to go. That's about all I'm going to talk about. This went longer than what I wanted it to. Now, hopefully tomorrow I will put or get that video out on the fundraising. I really want to do that. That's about it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. And I hope everyone has a fabulous Sunday night. I don't know if this will get out tonight or if it's going to get out in the morning. It might be in the morning before it gets out. So we'll just talk to you again.